Hello, everybody, and I don't even know where to start today. I got to tell you guys, when you do a show like this, and you're here 5 days a week and trying to get the word out on truth, what's happening, you find that things cycle. Sometimes there's a lot of news. Sometimes the news is slow. Sometimes it's interesting. Right now, it is chaos, and it's chaos in the MAHA movement, which is, of course, our home. Right? I mean, listen, we're MAGA, but we are very much MAHA. And the Mega Maha movement is unified in some ways, but in other ways, it's an absolute poo show. And right now, it's a bit of a mess. And I think it's intentional on some levels. I think that there's some real issues going on. And I think that we really need to understand it. So, we talked yesterday extensively about the move to really embrace RNA, DNA, chimeric bioengineering garbage in this country, right? Like that's where Trump's going with things. And there's an argument for what he's doing, but there's a lot of arguments against what he's doing. And at the same time, it seems very politically tone deaf the way he's doing it because, frankly, when we look at what's going on, we have a situation right now where we're on the heels of this COVID debacle and the disastrous mRNA COVID vaccines, and yet without even acknowledging or dealing with those issues, we're already moving into more. To me, this is kind of insane. Now, this has created a real schism. Like that, the schism, I used a schism in there. The schism is between the MAHA world, our core MAHA people, those of us, especially those of us that went to war during COVID, and the kind of greater MAGA movement, some of whom don't care about the MAHA side as much. And certainly it's certainly against the Democrats as well. So this is a big deal. I want to dig into this, and the Surgeon General fight really embodies it. So I want to get into that because Casey Means is really turned into a lightning rod here, and well, it's a big deal. So we need to talk about Casey. We need to talk about Bobby. We need to talk about the mRNA and why that's really become a litmus test for a lot of people, right? You don't tell me you're MAHA unless you recognize the dangers of mRNA, because you can't make America healthy again when you've got a COVID vaccine that's out there and does nothing positive but's killing children everywhere. So I mean, this has really become something we have to dig into this, and we have to have a conversation about it, because if we don't, it's just going to continue going south. So that's happening, and then at the same time, we've got a new pope. And y'all know I'm Catholic. I know. I don't want to hear it. I love all you. I love everybody, and I understand that some of my friends in the Protestant church and the evangelical church and everybody's got an issue with everybody. That's it. But listen. I follow Christ. If you follow Christ, you and I are on the same page. We can differ and distinguish between the details of how we do that. But anyways, the Pope is an interesting thing. The last one was garbage. And I'm very concerned about this one. I want to dig into that a bit because, we got another guy in there who seems to be embracing the Marxist global warming nonsense. He seemed to embrace everything that Francis was pushing. And, it's interesting that they put an American in there, because I guess that's supposed to make us okay with the fact that he's still selling out the principles of the church. At least that's what it looks like. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he comes in and does the right thing. But I'm a little bit concerned right now. And frankly, I don't think Francis was. I don't believe for a second that the conclave, when they appointed Francis, that was corrupt to me. I don't for a second believe that he was anointed or appointed by God. I don't believe for a second that the cardinals that were involved in that did that honestly, and I'm not sure that I believe that in this case either. We'll see what happens. I don't know, and I don't tell me. I get it. Y'all gonna tell me you can't say that, you're Catholic. Yes, I can. I just did. I just did. I'm sorry, but when you got a pope that's blessing, gay marriage, you can't put a blessing on something that God doesn't like. I don't have a problem with gay marriage on the legal side. You got to have a legal mechanism to deal with people who are doing things, who are together for 20, 30 years, but you can't change the religion because of the politics, and that's kind of what that was. So I'm supportive of it on the legal side because it's a practical reality, but I'm completely find it absurd that the Catholic Church took the position that they did on it. More on that coming up. we've got to get to this MAHA thing. It's really the foundational. I think it's one of the biggest things happening right now. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. But before we do, we need your help. We need your support, of course. And as always, please consider supporting us. Go to www.givesendgo.com/Renslaw, www.givesendgo/Renslaw. Support us there. Become a monthly donor. 10, $20 a month, $30. If you give 50, give 100, do it. Whatever you can do. We need monthly donors. They keep us going. They keep us functional. They allow us to budget. They allow us to get things done. Your monthly donation makes a world of difference in our freedom fight. So please help us if you can. Also, don't forget to go to TomRenz.com, support our affiliates. We have a lot of them and a lot of good ones. Make sure you're checking out Kirk Elliott and if you need precious metals, gold, silver, etc. Don't forget Block Trust IRA. Block Trust IRA, they literally have crypto IRAs. So these have all the protections of an IRA, but it's with crypto. So you can get in on the crypto thing. You can make some money off of it. And listen, I don't want people, don't tell me, oh, I don't like crypto. I don't like this. It doesn't matter whether you like it. That's where things are going. You can either make the money off of it or you cannot. Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump likes crypto. It's happening. It's not going to change. We don't want CBDCs, but maybe we can influence the crypto market. But you might as well make the money off of it while you can, because it's coming. So if you want to put crypto in your retirement account, consider Block Trust IRA. They are our sponsors and they are our people. So, of course, Sat Phone 123. We've got Dulce. We've got all sorts of people. But I want to remind you guys all today, don't forget about my friends at Global Healing. Global Healing, literally the best supplements on the market, in my opinion. I love these guys. I'm proud to work with them and to represent them as an affiliate sponsor and to really promote their products because they're very, very good. So, all right, let's get out of this. Let's move on. I'm just going right down. We're going to video, right? So this is Bobby Kennedy. Of course, he had his big interview with all these guys, and I want to start out. I want to play this to get us going.
We all share a vision that's been a lifelong vision for all of us, which is to make our country healthy, to have evidence-based science, to have gold standard replicable science, and then use that to challenge what we have this kind of bedrock system that is destroying our health, which is a complete misalignment of economic incentives and public health. Yesterday we met with the heads of all the biggest pharmaceutical companies, and I said, I want to live in a place where you can make money by making people healthy. And right now we're all aligned against each other. The healthcare system in this country is a bundle of perverse incentives that force people to do the wrong thing. And we've turned this country into a sick care system rather than a health care system. And all these people are the people who are going to change that.
Okay. So Bobby is dead right. I mean, he is absolutely right. We do have a sick care system rather than a healthcare system. And our entire healthcare system is incentivizing sickness. You make money when people are sick. You lose money if people are healthy. If you're pharma, if you're doctors, whatever you are, the whole system pays you when people are sick or unhealthy, right? The healthier people are, the less money you make. This is foundational, and it's the foundational issue in our healthcare system. Bobby's right. Now, one of the things I want to point to on this, and this is critical, right? So a lot of people are mad right now, and rightly so. And I go back and forth on this, but people are saying, Bobby, where the hell are you on mRNA? How is it that you've been here this long and we still have COVID vaccines on the childhood schedule, especially when we all know that there's literally no benefit and a lot of risks? How is it that you've been here this long and nothing's happening? And people are frustrated. Now, here's the thing, though. Our sources, and I'm just going to leave it at that, you can trust me on this or not, have informed us that essentially there are certain people in the White House that are telling Bobby, you're not going to take these off the market. You're going to allow these things. We're okay with mRNA, and you're going to deal with it. Bobby's hands are tied. But Bobby's been given authority to trust and to work towards science, right? So let me tell you how I interpret what's going on. I think that Bobby's a lawyer, and he's a smart lawyer. And he keeps talking about gold standard science, gold standard science, gold standard science, and incentivizing health over sick care. Those two things are the foundational things that have to change to make America healthy again, to MAHA, right? He's right about those. I've looked at this as an attorney. I've looked at this, I've worked with all the doctors and medical. He's right. Those two things are the foundation. Now, here's the problem. As an attorney, one thing that people get really frustrated about is when they know something, but it takes forever to get it to demonstrate it under the law. That is one of the things that's occurring right now. Bobby Kennedy is trying to get this to a situation where he can demonstrate things under the law, right? So he's got to have the gold standard. He's got to create the evidence because the evidence is limited in a lot of ways and on a lot of things. So you've got that going on. And until he's got that evidence, he can't make it public. He can't say to Donald Trump, Mr. President, listen, I know you've gotten a lot of information on both sides of the mRNA thing. Let me give you the definitive science on this. Here it is. Until he's got that, he doesn't have it. And there's nothing else to talk about. Now, I don't know this as a fact, but I would imagine that part of the deal when Trump and Bobby decided to work together was, hey, Mr. President, if you get elected and you put me in the spot, I won't shut down mRNA. But I want to be able to develop the evidence. And if the evidence shows it's as bad as I think, I want you to give me the okay to shut it down. I'm guessing that that was part of the negotiation. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just guessing. That makes sense to me, right? Because Trump's all in on it and Bobby's all against it. Bobby isn't going to be able to change it without Trump's blessing. But, Trump, to his credit, even though he may be, where he's at on it, he still put Bobby there. So that's what I'm thinking is happening. That said, the amount of evidence that we already have on the dangers of the COVID vaccines and the mRNA platform, I mean, it's monumental. It's huge. I've been through this over and over again. I've talked about this on a million different fronts. And in fact, let me show you this one. Y'all remember this? Y'all remember this? It's from Ron Johnson's roundtable, right? Where I brought the DMED data and that sort of stuff. And I say this, and I want to transfer into the Surgeon General issue, right? So everybody's talking about Callie and Casey means. Casey getting the AG or this SG nod is a huge deal. A lot of people are really, frankly, pissed about it. I don't know how else to say it. The people are mad. The MAHA world is mad, and they're mad because Casey has not been outspoken on the mRNA vaccines. Bobby's got in here and he's done a lot of stuff on food, but he's been very quiet on mRNA. Same with Casey. So, and in fact, there's some questions about where Casey is on the mRNA, but let's talk about why this is such an issue. So going back, we've known how bad these mRNA vaccines are for a long time. This isn't debatable. And let me show you this, right? So let me show you, let me show you this video. This is me. Defense Department initiative where they report and they take all this data that doesn't exist supposedly and they give it to the CDC. They're watching these vaccines. On that date and around that date, I have numerous instances where Fauci and that entire crew were saying it's a crisis of unvaxxed. It's 99% unvaxxed in the hospital. In Project Salus, in the weekly report, the DOD document says specifically 71% of new cases are in the fully vaxxed and 60% of hospitalizations are in the fully vaxxed. This is corruption at the highest level. We need investigations. The Secretary of Defense needs investigated. So I go on and I rant a little bit about that, but here's the deal. So the Project Salus document that I was talking about this is January 24th, 2024, or 2022, I'm sorry. So this is this is a DOD document from back that far, showing the ineffectiveness, the lack of efficacy and the lack of all these issues that we're having with these COVID vaccines. The DOD knew it. The evidence is there. Now, Bobby can pull Project Salus. He can pull all the reports. He can pull all this stuff. He can look at all this stuff. He also has the Medicare, Medicaid. I've got numerous instances where I dropped Medicare, Medicaid data from whistleblowers, right? It's been in court. Here's the problem. A lot of this happened, and a lot of this stuff I brought out in a time where censorship was so rampant that honestly, a lot of people didn't hear it. It didn't get out there. And so you've got this rampant censorship going on, and it didn't get out there as broadly as it should have, but a lot of people did hear it, right? So millions of people heard the truth during COVID, and they woke up and they started fighting it. They know what's out there. They know the evidence. It's been put in front of them, and you can't unsee it once you've seen it. Bobby knows this evidence and is aware of it. And so what's occurring right now is a fight. And the fight is coming from people like Mary Tyler Bowden and some of these others. And Mary, for example, is 100% aware of the fact that these vaccines are deadly. She's been fighting against this for quite some time. She's been fighting on the ivermectin side for quite some time. And she's saying, listen, if you're not speaking out against it, there's something wrong with you. And the same thing for Sherry Tenpenny. The same thing for, there's a whole long list of people saying, why aren't you speaking out about the mRNA death shot? And we've been for a long time. So at this point, if you want to say you're MAHA, there is a legitimate litmus test. And that litmus test is based on, well, are you for or against the mRNA COVID vaccines? If you are okay with that, then everybody in the MAHA movement is suspicious of you. If you aren't opposed to mRNA, then the MAHA movement, which is a group of people who are very awake on these issues. I mean, the MAHA people are some of the most educated people on complicated issues that you'll ever find. So the MAHA movement says, listen, we know what's up with these mRNA vaccines. Bobby, every day that you go around building this evidence and taking your time, kids are dying, right? And there's truth to that. Now, Bobby's in the unenviable position of having to balance on one side a desire to get the truth out, and on the other, the need to develop evidence or you not be able to do anything, right? Bobby, I guarantee you, I've checked this from 100 different places and heard it from 100 different sources. Bobby does not have the authority. The White House will not let Bobby ban mRNA tomorrow. I can't prove that. I don't have a document, but I've heard this from so many places and so many people close to the situation. I am 100% confident that if Bobby tried to ban mRNA tomorrow, he'd lose his job the next day. So the thing that you got to understand is he has to develop this evidence or he isn't going to get there. Now, am I justifying that? No. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If it was me, I'd probably consider losing the job just to make the point. But if I did that, that would mean I couldn't fix any of these other things. And Bobby's fixing a lot of other things. And so we got to understand that. He is helping. I mean, the food situation, all these different things. And we only got one shot at getting a Bobby Kennedy in there. You aren't going to get a new Bobby. There isn't. If Bobby were to be fired, you're going to get some slug that's going to sell out to everybody. I guarantee you that. So Bobby is in a very tough position. That's why I keep giving him the benefit of the doubt. That said, enter Casey Means, enter the Surgeon General. Now, a number of people are reporting, and I'm not getting into what I know on this, but a number of people are reporting that Kelly Victory was up for the spot of Surgeon General, and at the last minute, Casey Means was given the spot. Now, Kelly Victory is a eminently qualified doctor. She's brilliant. She's got her credentials are second to none. I know Kelly. I consider her a friend. And she's incredible. I mean, she would have been an absolute machine in that position. But Kelly has been very outspoken against mRNA. She was very outspoken during COVID. I think that's part of the reason that she wasn't given the position. Casey, by contrast, was not. Casey's been much more vanilla. Now, the problem is that in the MAHA movement, we're sick of vanilla. We don't want vanilla. Now, is Casey being smart about it? Maybe. But the problem is there's so much distrust, right? We in the MAHA movement, we don't just trust anybody at this point because everybody in the government keeps screwing us over. So the lack of trust really creates an issue. And the fact that, Casey has not really taken a stance on this stuff makes it very suspect. Now, is Casey a step up from this last clown? What's her name? Norshwitz or whatever her name was? Absolutely. But is Casey a good guy? I don't know. I really don't know. To be real honest with you, I've never met Casey Means. I've seen a lot of the stuff that she's done on, she and her brother are doing on the food and on a bunch of these different things, but I don't know her. So I don't have a direct opinion on this. I've heard all sorts of things. right? I've heard that she's her dad worked for Big Pharma. I heard that that they're controlled opposition, and I've heard all sorts of things. But I never take that at face value. I always have to dig into it, and I have to find the actual evidence, the proof, right? Now, enter some additional people. So let's throw in a couple other things. Enter Nicole Shanahan, Bobby's running mate when he was running for president. Now, Nicole, I mean, one thing, I don't know Nicole either, but Nicole has been nothing but outspoken in the health freedom movement. Nothing but outspoken. She's been an absolute warrior on that, and she's been unflinching. Nicole is outright furious about this whole thing. I mean, she ripped Bobby on this. She actually publicly said that Bobby had said that, the Casey would never, the means were, people were not getting appointed to this, or this. They weren't going to be involved, right? So there's apparently, according to Nicole, Casey Callie were not favored by Bobby for a long time. Now there's a sudden change of heart. According to Mary Tyler Bowden, there's a major change of heart because Kelly Victory was going to be given the position. Then all of a sudden at the last minute is given to Casey Means. Question is what, why, when, where, how, right? And do we trust Casey Means? And at the end of the day, my answer is I don't know. I don't. And I don't think we're going to right now. Is Casey Means qualified? Well, if you believe the narrative, she's very qualified. If you don't believe the narrative, I don't know. And so let's talk about that, right? So when we look at this, officially, if you cite, there is no real evidence of Casey Means ever really saying anything against mRNA vaccines or COVID vaccines, right? There's a lot of stuff. She's been very publicly skeptical on vaccine schedules. Her brother has certainly spoken out on that as well. Nothing really publicly that I can say that I've been able to find on mRNA or COVID vaccines. She is tied with this, but I mean, we don't really know where she's at on this, right? So Casey is not taking a position, which I think part of the reason she got the job, and probably the whole reason she got the job over Kelly Victory. I do believe what Mary Tyler Bowden is saying, that Kelly was going to get that job. And I believe that, Kelly was supposed to get picked on that. And, I've checked around. I think that's an accurate assertion. And I can tell you, folks, I've checked around. I think that's an accurate assertion. Let's leave it at that. I wouldn't be talking about it here. So, yeah, I think that Kelly was supposed to get it. I personally think she was probably blocked by the White House for her position on mRNA, whereas Casey has been very much more pliable in that situation. Now, I think it's interesting because when we look at Casey being given this position, what we got to think about is this, right? So Trump puts out an executive order that embraces mRNA, DNA, gene therapy, genetic modification, the whole transhumanism agenda. It's really a big deal. And this order was huge. It allowed gain of function and embraced transhumanism. Because listen, if we modify people's genetics, what is that, right? We are a product of our genetics. And if we modify our genetics, what is that? Well, that's different from the initial human being that was there. It's transhuman. So transhumanism in the literal form, right? I'm not saying that, they necessarily make you a cyborg, but they do certainly modify what you're made of if you use certain DNA vaccines or some of these other things. So that's what that order does. And make no mistake, the executive order that Trump signed literally does embrace those transhumanistic aspects of science and medicine. I mean, I would love to tell you otherwise, but I ain't going to lie to you. That's what it does. So Means seems much more pliable to the president's position than Kelly Victory did. Now, this really makes MAHA furious and makes MAHA have even less trust, right? So trust is very, very in very short supply in the MAHA movement. There's a lot of people that are actually, even talking about their trust for Bobby. Now, I still trust that Bobby's going the right direction, but I think Bobby's on a very short leash. And as I said earlier in the show, you got to remember, if Bobby can't do what he's doing, well, what's going to happen? Nothing's going to get done, right? So Bobby's got kind of this pragmatic thing going on, it appears. I haven't talked to him, but it seems like he's got this very pragmatic approach to things right now, and he's just doing what he's got to do to keep to keep moving. But again, the mRNA thing is foundational, and it's a litmus test for MAHA. So, anyways, as we look at this thing with Callie Means, enter Laura Loomer and Casey Means. Laura has all sorts of stuff, right? Now, one of the things that's interesting, and I haven't confirmed this, but I'm going to show you guys this. So this is Laura, and she claims to have uncovered old social media posts where under the handle Dr. Casey's Kitchen, where she celebrated her COVID-19 vaccine live on the show, right? Now let's go down here. Let's look at what she's got. Here is Laura Loomer. You can see this is, let's pause. Love this Dr. Casey Means CMO and founder of the Levels joined Clubhouse and literally getting her COVID vaccine this moment while being tonight's guest with whatever. Now here you see Casey Means, a picture that appears to be Casey Means. And so this is Laura's backup on it. This is how Laura is saying that Casey Means right here is the person who is getting this. So Laura, being Laura, and Laura is Laura, goes through and says she took the jab, so how can she be a representative of MAHA? And I got to agree with her on that. If you're pro jab, now if you took it and then you found out you were wrong, okay. But you need to clarify that, right? Someone needs to let know. So it looks like, so she goes on and says, Casey Means pretending to be someone she isn't, right? Why'd she change her handle? Then she's talking about Casey's medical license, all these different things, right? Now, this is a big deal because Bobby is loving Casey, right? Bobby's loving her and seems to be very excited about this. And in the meantime, you got Casey Means. Now, let's enter this. Now, I don't know if this is accurate. I couldn't find this post on Callie Means, but I know MJ Truth Ultra is a good guy, and he did this screenshot. And apparently Callie Means made this statement. It wouldn't surprise me if he made it then deleted it, because that's the kind of thing you say when you're mad and then you delete it. But he basically said, just received the information, taking money from the industry to scuttle President Trump's agenda. So he's trying to undermine Laura Loomer. Right. Which, I mean, this is the kind of sniping that happens. It goes back and forth. You end up fighting with different people when you get offended. So you've got this back and forth occurring. So I checked a bunch of these things, and, I've seen all sorts of rumors, right? So we've seen rumors about Callie and Casey's father being involved with Big Pharma. I can't show that, right? I mean, I know that he worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers. And they, I'm sure that they probably had, PricewaterhouseCoopers was huge. They probably did have, pharma clients. Whether or not he worked with them, I don't know. I can't confirm that. I'm sure someone will be able to confirm it. I'm sure there's information somewhere. But I just don't know, right? I don't know for sure. But the point on this and the whole thing that's occurring here, and the thing that's most important is, honestly, y'all know I love Trump, but how damn tone deaf is this administration on MAHA? The weakest area, and this is the weakest area during the campaign. That's why he had to bring Bobby in. Trump didn't want to bring Bobby in because he's MAHA. Trump knew that he couldn't win the election without Bobby. MAHA was going to win or lose that election, so he brought Bobby in. But now they got Bobby on a short leash. Now here's the thing. You have mRNA vaccines killing kids, causing turbo cancer, creating all these problems. This is 100% what is foreseeable. Everything, we knew all this back in 2021, right? These vaccines were unsafe, they were ineffective, and they were untested on long term. They were created years ago. They were sitting on a shelf, and wherever they were sitting. And they were just waiting to roll them out as part of the reset and to steal they use it to steal the 2020 election, all that sort of stuff. You've got to understand that at the end of the day, the MAHA movement is awake, and we're aware of all of this stuff. We know what's going on with these vaccines. We know that they're dangerous. We know that it's an issue. We know mRNA is neither safe nor effective. We know that they never stop transmission of anything. We know that they make you sick and they transmit sickness because they shed the spike protein. We know that they sometimes modify your DNA in a permanent way because they do reverse transcribe. We know that there's studies suggesting that to be true, but that no one will actually study it further because no one wants to fight with big pharma. We know that the data exists to show how dangerous these things are. And therein lies the biggest issue, right? I over and over and over during COVID brought data that was inarguable and demonstrated the lack of safety and efficacy of these vaccines. Bobby's got that data plus a whole lot more. And the MAHA movement is pissed. We're saying, Bobby, how can you let this poison out there that they're using and it's killing children? When are you going to pull it off? And everybody's getting frustrated because they feel the same way they do about the DOJ. Hey, Bondi, are you ever going to arrest the child molesters on the Epstein list, or are they just too rich and powerful and there's a double standard? And by the same token, people are starting to say, Bobby, are you ever going to actually stop the mRNA, or are you going to let Big Pharma get away with it? Now, whereas I've got problems with what Bondi's doing, I think there's a really, really critical distinction when it comes to Bobby. I believe that Bobby's trying to do the right thing, and I think he will get there. I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm frustrated, just like everybody else, because every day that these things are on the schedule, every day that these things are on the shelf, more kids, more families, more people are being poisoned with them, who will likely end up with long-term health problems, die younger than they otherwise would have, and probably end up with turbo cancer. This is a disaster. It is a debacle, and it is awful. So I get Bobby's position. I continue to support Bobby, but we have to recognize what's going on. And really the explosion, and if you look at this, it's interesting, right? So let me look here real quick. Let's do a real-time. We do these real-time searches sometimes. Let's look here. So if I go over to my news feed and I scroll down, let's see here. Interestingly, you've got Bondi's got 73,000 posts because everybody's mad at her. That's 68,000 posts on Kennedy. Scrolling down. RFK Jr. 34,000. You got Loomer. You got a whole bunch of posts trending. mRNA is trending. You've got all sorts of things trending, right, related to this. Everybody's upset. Everybody's asking, when are you going to pull these? Why are these things happening? What are you going to do here? Over and over and over, we get the same thing. mRNA is the litmus test for MAHA. If you don't have the courage to speak out against mRNA, then you can pretend to be MAHA, but it's a little bit weak. And MAHA loves Trump, but MAHA is not going to blindly say okay to Trump saying mRNA is all right. We're not going to stand on that one. Okay, we'll stand up against anybody on this. We're never going to be okay with this. Maybe someday that platform will be okay. Maybe someday they'll find a way to make it safe or effective, but it's not today. Right now, it's been an abject failure. And personally, I don't ever want to put a gene therapy product in my arm like that. I don't want my genetics modified. I don't want to risk my genetics being modified. I like being human just the way I am. Someone else wants to be something else, let them be it. Not for me. It's terrifying, right? Because I want my kids to have human babies. I don't want designer babies. I don't want gene therapy drugs modifying humanity. I believe God did humanity just fine. I don't think we need any help. I don't think we need to change who we are or what we are. I think what we need to do is really double down on being human and making ourselves healthier through natural mechanisms. I think we need to do this the right way and quit trying to, this nonsense, trying to play God with these gene therapy things. It's absurd, right? When we went through the stuff I've been through dealing with different health issues and things like that, there are natural supplements, natural this, natural that help with all sorts of diseases. Cancer to COVID, there are always things that you can take and do that don't require these gene therapy drugs and things like that. Yeah, I think the world was made. I think God made the world in a way where there are cures, where there are natural solutions for problems. We just have to find them and match them. But you can't do that when pharma is incentivized, as Bobby says, for sick care. All that our healthcare system does is reward sick care and punishes anything else. We've got to realign that. If Bobby's doing that, which he appears to be trying to do, that's good. But he's got a lot of work to do, and he's going to have to. There's going to be some broken eggs here, right? Bobby's not going to fix this without cracking some eggs. There's going to be some issues. There's going to be some problems. Bobby's got to get that done. So, at the end of the day, this is kind of where we're going with things. This is where it's got to be. And until this administration recognizes that on the mRNA especially, that's a litmus test. We're not okay with that until they recognize the truth of that. The administration is going to continue having major problems. No one in the MAHA movement's okay with what's going on. So anyways, that's enough of that. Let's move on to some other stuff. I want to get into, oh, by the way, VerbPAC's still on. VerbPAC's still on so that they can do the next generation of COVID vaccines. They're still meeting May 22nd so that they can decide what the next generation of COVID vaccines will look like. Think about that, folks. You want to talk about tone deaf? And you want to know why people are mad about someone? Yeah. And again, I'm not making this about Casey. Maybe Casey's okay. Maybe she's not. I don't know. I have no idea. We'll find out. But what I do know is part of the way that we're going to know is by hearing what she's doing with these mRNA poisons. And the resounding silence coming from the HHS team on mRNA is very telling. Every one of these guys knows how bad that stuff is, and yet no one's talking about it. That tells you how short the leash is, right? So we've got to be aware of that. And I tell you, Casey will be evaluated, and our judgment on this will really come down to what she does with this AI, mRNA, where she is on some of these platforms, what they're doing. Same for Bobby. At the end of the day, Bobby, the litmus test will be whether Bobby gets behind these new AI-driven mRNA poisons. If he allows that to happen, if he doesn't step up on that, I think Bobby will lose his base, honestly. I think if there's no definitive action taken at any point, we can give Bobby the benefit of the doubt, and I'm happy to do that. I do. But at some point, if Bobby doesn't take some definitive steps on this to ensure safety and efficacy, and that doesn't mean banning it forever, it means properly studying it, the gold standard science that he's talking about, and making sure that it's transparent. If he does that, you won't have to worry about it because no one will take these things. I've already seen the evidence, right? So if he does that, he'll be okay. But we're going to have to see where they come down. And at the end of the day, the litmus test for everybody's political careers and future going forward is going to be where they come down on this. So that is what it is. I guess we're all going to wait and see, because what other choice do we have? I don't know. I might sue somebody, but we'll see about that. All right. Let's go to there we go. All right, folks. Pope Francis is gone. And I shouldn't say this, but ding dong, the witch is dead, right? This guy was terrible. He was just, I don't know what to say about the guy. I just found him to be appalling. I think he was anathema. Here's my feelings. I want to talk about where I'm at on this, right? I've read the book, right? I read the book. I've read the Bible a bunch of times. I've looked at it. I like it. I find it to be the truth. I find it to be the truth. Okay, so I start there. That's where my faith starts and ends. I have to put it somewhere, right? So I think God speaks to us. I think he lets us know what you can and can't do. I think he does that. But I also, the Bible is where we start, right? I can't argue with it. That's God's book. If he didn't want it to say what it says, I think he would have had it changed. I think the reason it's been consistent, not perfectly consistent, but generally consistent for so many years, is because he made it that way. I mean, we can argue about this phrase or that phrase. We can argue about, the church changed this or included this or excluded that. But at the end of the day, the foundation of the Bible stems from Christ saying, listen, treat others like you want to be treated. Don't sin against the Holy Spirit, and, live a good life. And that's the foundation, right? then the rest of the Bible is dedicated to kind of laying that out and what that means, right? There's a lot of rules and a lot of this and a lot of that. I don't need to get into every single nuanced passage because, to be real honest with you, my perspective on it is that I fail to do unto others some days. Some days I get mad and I do, I do this or I do that. I'm not a perfect Christian. When I get to the point that I can be perfect enough to fuss over a single passage, at that point I'm doing okay. But I got work to do before I get there. I am a lawyer, right? So yeah, when I look at this, I don't really fuss over single passages, but here's the deal. One thing you'll never hear me do is look at a passage in the Bible and say, well, the Bible's wrong. I'm going to do something. I think we should do something else. I'm not going to say I don't fall short or fail to do what it says, but the question is, do I ever think, wait, I should do something else? And the answer is no, resoundingly. Resoundingly. I should aspire to what that book says, because if I'm a Christian, that's the book. That's the rule book, right? That's what we shoot for. Pope Francis, he just, he kind of blew it off, right? On a lot of things. He was like, yeah, whatever. Aborted fetal cell line, abortion, killing babies. I guess that's okay. Climate change, which, used as a means to promote Marxism and communism. The Bible seems to embrace freedom, but I'm okay with it. It's the Francis kind of across the board. We got a little bit of problem with child molesters in the church, but, it's going to be inconvenient to deal with that. Let's cover it up some more, right? Francis across the board was just horrific. And when people like Archbishop Vignano called him out, look what happened. He got excommunicated. One of the best archbishops on the planet, one of the best guys out there, they excommunicated him. It's insanity. So this, Pope Francis to me was garbage. And I'm going to be real controversial here because as a Catholic, I'm supposed to believe that a bunch of bishops go into this conclave and they all shut everything down and they pray to God and God puts it in their heart and they pick the next pope and it's the right guy. I don't think that happened with Francis. I think there was corruption. There's been allegations of corruption. There were numerous allegations by credible people that the decision to appoint Francis was made outside of the conclave, that it was influenced. And I tend to believe them because Francis in no way, shape, or form, the guy just outright disregarded some of the book. So I don't think that was an okay thing. And I'm going to be interested to see what this Pope Leo does because I'm not overly confident, right? Leo is, it's interesting, right? So you got a guy that is really, by all reports, and we're going to get into this, a Pope Francis Jr., but he's from America, the first American Pope. Why does that matter? Well, look at what's happening. You got Trump, you got the rise of the Christian right in America. You're seeing the rise of the Christian nationals in America, people who are proud of their faith, who are proud to speak out. We're trying to recenter. They're trying to stand up against this DEI crap, this transgenderism, this child molesters, pedophiles, the whole things, right? You're seeing a lot of this. And then you get an American Pope, which we should all be excited about, right? We got an American Pope. Yay, he's from America. Except for what? He's from America, but it seems like he's going to be Pope Francis Light. Now, we don't know. We'll see. We got to wait and see, right? We don't know what he's going to do once he's there. But we know that he was very sympathetic to Francis for a lot of years. Would picking an American Pope to carry on what Francis was doing, would that make sense? If I'm right, if the globalists had something to do with Francis getting appointed, they're trying to undermine, get involved with the church, wouldn't it make sense for them to want another guy that's very much like that, but from America, right? Because that's a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? It makes it a little bit easier if it's an American Pope, right? And I'm not supposed to say this as a Catholic. I'm not supposed to question. I'm supposed to blindly trust that the conclave was controlled by God and that he did it. But you know what? I've found that blind trust doesn't work real well. The only person that I'm going to blind trust anymore is Christ himself. I'll trust God. There ain't a man on this planet I'm going to blindly trust at this point. I'll trust but verify, but I ain't going to blindly trust anyone, including the church, because the church is still protecting pedophile priests. So let me just ask you this. Do you blindly trust someone who's willing to sell out to a point that they're willing to protect a pedophile? Hell no. If that institution refuses to deal with the pedophilia issue, I am sure not going to blindly trust them. So yeah, I'm proud of my Catholic faith, but I'm not proud of my Catholic Church at this point. They're a mess. And it's not the first time in history that the Catholic Church has been corrupt, and it won't be the last. Hope we'll get, the church will get through it. God will see it through it, and it'll eventually get right. But right now it's a mess. So let's talk about what's happening here. So you got this Cardinal Francis Prevost from Chicago, and he's elected. And now he's Pope Leo the 14th. And it's the first time we've had an American Pope. And he's been all over. He's been big on environmental nonsense, the whole global warming crap. He basically Pope Francis Jr., right? Now I pulled up and I asked, went to Grok and I said, what can you tell me about this new guy, right? And I asked, where was he in terms of, some of Pope Francis's stuff? Was he the more controversial stuff? Now, let me kind of give you a summary of some of this, right? So it's confirmed. This guy is the guy. And the way that I asked about it is whether or not his views are aligned with Francis's more controversial views. As far as from the conservative perspective. And Grok told me, and this is AI, but I think that, I've checked this in a number of spots and it seems to check out. So this guy is 69 years old, so he's going to be there for quite a while. He's got quite a bit of time to continue wrecking the church if that's what he chooses to do. Well, I'm hoping he doesn't. Maybe he'll be different now. Maybe he was just following orders. But according to Grok and according to everything I'm seeing, his views are very closely aligned with Francis. Pastoral care, inclusivity, and social justice. Those are the things we keep saying. Social justice. Anyone who's supporting social justice to me is suspect, and especially a pope. Social justice is not in any way, shape, or form aligned with what we do in the Catholic Church or what we're supposed to be doing. This is absurd, right? Now, the supporters are calling him middle of the road, right? Saying that he's not overly progressive, he's not overly conservative, he's middle of the road. Maybe that's true. I hope so. But the way he's focusing on social issues and some of these other things and less on doctrinal issues makes me a bit suspicious, right? So here's what we've got. I looked at a couple different things. So where's he at on this COVID stuff, right? Well, Francis was a big fan of vaccination. This guy was lined up with him. He was right there along the line, and he wasn't. I'm not saying that he was out, pushing the vaccine everywhere, but it sounds like he was certainly not against it, right? He certainly embraced Francis's stance on some of these things, and that's an issue, right? Because Francis embraced these vaccines across the board, even the ones with aborted fetal cell lines. That is a huge thing for Catholics, right? With the aborted fetal cell line, that sort of stuff. The fact that Francis was somehow okay with that is an appalling thing. And it seems like Leo is going to be in line on that. Now, is that 100%? No, it's not. We'll see where it goes, but that's a pretty phenomenal deal. Global warming, right? Leo is apparently very much in line with Francis on this, right? Climate change, a human-caused moral crisis, and then we got to do everything we can do about it, right? This is a big deal because climate change is a fraud, and it's absurd. And the fact that this is why does he care about this? Be the Pope, right? Worry about whether or not we're doing right by Christ, not these worldly things. This is worldly, not godly. So this is an absurd thing, and the focus on it is really putting the church in a political situation rather than focusing on what they're supposed to be focusing on, which is morality. That's the only thing we need from the church. We don't need your political anything. We just need to know where you are morally. That's where the church should be, and that's where we need to be with it. But, he's sticking himself in this. Uh, Quote, Prevost is a vocal proponent of Francis's emphasis on synodality, which seeks to make the church more inclusive and participatory through consultation with laity and clergy. He supported opening the bishop nomination process to include perspectives from women and lay people, a move seen as progressive. He also mediated tensions between the Vatican and German church during its controversial synodal process, showing diplomatic skill but aligning with Francis's approach. Conservative Catholics, especially traditionalists, often view synodality with suspicion, fearing it dilutes hierarchical authority or risks of heterodoxy. Now, some of the stuff, it's in the weeds. That's probably slightly less of an issue for me than the social justice stuff, right? Social justice, obviously we all care for the poor, but using that principle to push for this illegal immigration, some of these other things, is absolute nonsense. You got to take care of your own home before you can take care of anybody else's. And it's interesting, the absolute hypocrisy that Pope Francis showed. We got to protect the illegals. Meanwhile, he's got a wall around the Vatican, 90 feet tall, guys with machine guns everywhere. There are no illegals in the Vatican, but America is supposed to be open to illegals. That is absurd. He's got some stuff on divorce, which I don't really care about. He's got stuff on women's roles. He's useless on clergy sex abuse, from what I'm seeing. And that's really the biggest one for me. Across the board, this guy seems like Pope Francis light, or maybe Pope Francis heavy. I don't know. But if you look at what he's got here, there's an immense amount of stuff on this, an immense amount. And it all seems very, very concerning to me. It looks like we've elected another Pope Francis. And it looks like, this particular Pope Francis Jr. is a disaster. So I guess we'll see what happens here. Producer Andrea, are you there? Are you, I know you're there, but I don't know if you can hear us here.
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Producer Andrea, you are a very Christian and a wonderful human being, and but not Catholic.
Not Catholic.
Not Catholic. So let me ask you, as a non-Catholic, but a practicing Christian, and you and I have talked about this. We don't necessarily want to. Oh, there we have producer Andrea. She's been hiding lately. We have been. We've talked in the past, and you and I both feel that, you want everyone to feel welcome at church, but church still has to stand for what's right or wrong. What do you think about this guy? What do you think about what we're hearing in kind of this initial overview?
It's really sad because a lot of people have been watching the trends in the news, people responding to it, and in your chat too on Rumble. There's a few of our great fans, Anne and a few others that are talking about it. We all are sadly just, of course that's what they did. Of course they got someone who's basically going to be just as bad, if not worse, and seems to be a globalist, in my opinion. It's sad to see what happened to the church, and we saw it when they shut down. You've been saying it from the beginning of COVID, when they shut down the churches for COVID. Yeah. And then when we see our church leaders, especially the Pope, of all churches, of all religious sects in the world, you would expect the Catholic Church to be very strong on certain values and certain principles. And instead, we're seeing the exact opposite. There's so many church leaders across the world. There are a few good ones that we saw rise up, and a lot of them were some of them were thrown in jail. It was pretty sad. So there's some good ones, but there's not nearly enough. They're literally doing the opposite of what the Bible preaches, the opposite of how Jesus lived his life. And the Catholic Church should be going by the letter, in my opinion, more than any of them. And we have these weak church leaders that seem to be bought and sold and be pushing a globalist agenda. And they're political, but they're political in the wrong way. I don't mind a church leader standing up for what's right for society and maybe getting involved with some of these hard conversations, because of course we want the laws of the land and the governing of our societies to reflect what we want to see, to reflect our principles. To see it go the exact opposite, and then to see how many people are, I mean, honestly, I don't know if apathy is the right word, but to see so many people go, oh yeah, well, we knew that was going to happen. It's really sad, honestly, to see how far we've fallen.
It is. I think that's a good point. I think the worst part of this whole thing is like
people are saying, what'd you expect? What'd you expect? I mean, how sad of the world that we live in. We expect election fraud. We expect a tyrannical government. We expect now our church leaders, including the Pope, to be a bad guy. I mean,
we're just living and expecting disappointment on all levels, and it really is sad.
We wake up and we go, well, of course they chose that guy.
Who's screwing us today?
And then the Surgeon General, and then the MAHA movement. We're all sitting here going, oh, well, if they're in power, they're probably bought off. Yeah. Oh, they're probably on the Epstein list. They're probably blackmailed. I mean, we're all awake now, but we're still having to watch this charade of evil.
Yeah.
And the way we fight it is to basically, I mean, we still get censored, and a lot of us persecuted and thrown in jail. There are people like Tina Peters in jail. There are a lot of church leaders that are fighting legal issues because they did the right thing. Those of us doing the right thing are scared for our livelihoods. We're scared for our families. We're getting death threats. I mean, this is insane.
Yeah, Bondi's got, the DOJ is still persecuting people. Bondi's really got to get her act together or get out of there. I'm not at all impressed with what's happening there. But, with regards to the church, it's really a shame. Yeah, I think everybody was praying and hoping that we got someone new that actually reflected the values. I don't need the church to help me with social. I don't need them to help me with politics. I need them to help me to be a good person in God's eyes. And that doesn't include, getting involved in political issues that have nothing to do with the church. I mean, everything is based on God, but at the same time, they're inserting themselves in ways that both unnecessary and really kind of negatively just impacts it. So
and you can't say that Jesus wasn't political. I mean, he was flipping tables when he saw corruption. He was out there with the whip. I mean, if there is corruption,
but he was fighting it the right way.
Exactly.
Not he wasn't pushing. Yeah, let's do blessings on gay marriages. And again,
exactly.
Like I said, I personally think that legally you have to, under our Constitution, that sort of stuff has to have a mechanism to be dealt with. But the church, that's a different animal. And I mean, you live your life, I'll live mine. But don't tell me that the church is the one that cannot move on the moral side.
And they're going against the word. It's wild to see the Catholic Church going against the word. Literally. I mean, there's a church around the corner from my house that has a giant LGBTQ flag outside of it, hanging outside of it.
I was just at one. I got to tell you, I had to go. I went and gave blood the other day, and I don't think I've been able to share this story, but I got to tell you, the place I went to, nicest people you've ever seen, but it was like like I show up there and I'm trying to figure out where I'm at because I didn't know that places like this existed, but it was they called it a church, but it was dedicated to LGBTQism and the ties to faith with that. I've never seen anything like it. It was bizarre.
Yeah. It's weird. We used to say, because I worked in hospitality, out here in Nevada. So it's like we used to always say, you don't talk two things you don't talk about: religion and politics. Now we see those two things intertwined quite brazenly and boldly in a very corrupt fashion. It's just it's like it's flipped.
Well, the problem
180
is
the other direction.
Those two things are always intertwined, but if they're going to be intertwined, you have to decide which one. The religion can't change because of the political nature, and that's really just the nature of it. So, all right. Well, we've got to wrap today. Thanks everybody for listening. Lots happening. So stay tuned. We got a lot to get through in the next month or so. It's going to be crazy. So make sure
Tom Renz is going to say things that people's heads are going to go.
Yeah, we got some really crazy stuff that we're digging into right now. So we got a lot coming on. So stay tuned. We'll be back soon.